You promised God that if he got you out of here, you would turn around and fly right. Oh, me and my case now. What am I going to do now? So, 13 hours it took from the time he released me to the time I actually got out of the jail. And again, all I can think about was that prayer for 13 hours. So we finally get released out onto the streets about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm asking the guard as we're going down the elevator, you guys really aren't that bright. He's going, why is that? I said, well, you're releasing 13 of us. 13 criminals out onto the streets of Seattle at 3 o'clock in the morning. How am I supposed to get home? Steal a car? I mean, come on. Anyhow, so I walked to my car. And by the time I got to my car, it was daylight. I get in my car, fire it up, and all of the finest are right there on me. And suddenly I realized why they had let me go. Why they thought they let me go. It isn't why they let me go, but why they let me go. When I got arrested, see, they knew I was manufacturing methamphetamine. They even told me so. And I wasn't shy about it. I just told them they'll never catch me. They said, why not? I said, because you're too stupid. And they made them even more intent on catching me. So when they arrested me this one last time for driving while suspended, I pulled into a store parking lot. Because that's private property. They can't impound your car. So while he was searching my car, he accidentally locked himself out of my car. Then while he was going back, he went to the back of his car to get a Slim Jim. And as he's walking past the window, I'm cuffed and stuff. I said, hey, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going to finish searching your car. I said, no, you need a warrant to get in my car. He said, no, you're under arrest. You're going to jail. I don't need a warrant. I said, that's true. Right up to the point you locked yourself out. Now you need a search warrant. Fine. He gets in his car, he grabs the mic. I said, wait a minute. Before you call in, you need a reason for the search warrant. And I'm stupid isn't a good enough reason to get a search warrant to search my car. So you're going to need a better warrant, a reason, than I'm stupid. He throws the mic down and goes, fine, you'll be in jail anyways. See? So as soon as I got back in my car, fired it up, boom, same cop and everybody there, except now he's got K9 there and everybody. It looks like Christmas time, all the lights are flashing. Mr. Boyd, get out of the car. I said, what for? He said, driving while suspended. I said, I can't be driving while suspended while I'm parked on private property. You're going to have to go. And the sheriff is standing right there, his boss, and he looks at him and goes, yep. And he goes, oh. So they all have to leave, except now I'm sitting there, and they parked one car there. Now, by this time, it's afternoon-ish, so I went over to this other store, and I bought all the parts to tune up my car, because I have to make it to Grandma's house. See, I'm going to follow through with my plans, with my prayer. And I know the only way I can do that is if I can find unconditional love. And that was always at Grandma's house for me. Anyhow. And so I knew I had to get to Grandma's house. But now, how am I going to get there? I got a cop sitting on my car. The highway's just right over there, and I got to get on it. So I tuned up my car, and the cop's sitting there, and I tuned up the engine, goes spark plugs and all that. Anyways, long story short, I walked back to the drug house where I had just left when I got arrested, where we were manufacturing the methamphetamine. I walk in the door, and they're all like, dude, where you been? 17, 18 days later, right? Anyways, full of the story. So I walk into the drug house, I'm looking for a driver's license. Anybody got a driver's license? Yeah, I got one. He's got a beard in one hand, his eyes are gone. He's been out for 3 days doing dope, and so he wasn't going to go anywhere. Once he got in my car, he'd get pulled over and then arrested, and I'd be right back where I was. So I told him, I said, see this $50 bill? I said, I'm going to be back tomorrow. You be sober enough to drive my car out of town. I'll put you on the bus right back to here, and I'll give you this $50 bill. And go, yeah, okay. So I went, I spent the night in my car, and of course the cops still camped on me. Next morning when I wake up, I walk over to the drug house, and I walk in the door, and the kid's in about the exact same condition as when I left it the day before. still high, still drinking, still everything. So I get back in my car. I'm walking back to my car. And I look up and I said, all right, Lord, I don't know what your plan is, but I'm going to walk to my car, I'm going to get in it, and I'm going to start it, and I'm going to drive it. And if you want me to stay here in Seattle and be in jail, well, then I'll have a ministry in jail. But if you don't, then you're going to get me to where I need to go. I came walking back, I turned the corner, I could see my car, the cop car was gone. I walked over to my car, I hopped in it, and I sat there, and I fired it up, and I watched the light, and I timed it, and I counted, and when it was time, I threw it in gear, I backed up, I came up to the on-ramp, or to the light turned green, I made the turn, I made the next turn right down onto the highway, and I drove 375 miles to where my car died, I'm not kidding, right in my grandma's driveway, and I never drove that car ever again. So I made it to unconditional love. Well, believe it or not, this is in now Walla Walla, Washington, where I'm at. And that very week that I got there, that very next Monday or whatever it was, maybe it was the weekend, I can't remember, but they were having a week of prayer, or camp meeting. They were having camp meeting in College Place, Washington, and none other than Dwight Nelson was their speaker. As I sat there and I went to those things and I listened to Dwight speak, because see, we'd been in the church before my parents got divorced. And then in 8th grade, I went back, they went back into the church. I was actually baptized in 76, and in the 8th grade through high school, I gave that a chance. And what happened then was that when I graduated, I decided that, if this is what you can consider Christianity, you can keep it. I don't want nothing to do with it. I know what my problem was. I was looking at people. I was looking at teachers and people to be what it meant to be like Christ. And they failed miserably, of course. I didn't know that then. I was a kid. Satan won, and I walked. I said, you can keep this, but this is what Christianity is. And so I wasn't practicing, but I had some background from those years in college, or in high school, 8th grade in high school. But anyhow, so when we were sitting there listening to Dwight Nelson, I couldn't believe how much the church had changed. It wasn't the church that had changed. He was preaching the same message probably, but it was me. But he got to this one verse, and that was our scripture reading. Isaiah 42:16. And when he was preaching and talking on that verse, a voice in my head said, dude, that is you. He's talking about me. He said, and I will bring the blind by a way they knew not. I will lead them in paths they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. I will do these things to them and not forsake them. Well, I was there at Grandma's house. I'm getting fattened up, and I thought at that point I had recommitted my life to the Lord. I had thought. We were watching a television program, JABN, or Hope, I don't know which one it was, but it was a group from Loma Linda College that had gone on a missionary trip. And they were doing this report of all the wonderful things that happened while they were on the trip and how much fun they had and da-da-da-da. And my grandmother just happened to mention, she said, honey, if you ever wanted, I'm sitting over the computer, not really paying much attention, but she was all absorbed into it. And she's going, if you ever wanted to go on a mission trip like that, Grandpa and I, we'd sure love to fund that or support you in that. And so I said, yeah, okay, Grandma, thanks. I'll let you know, kind of deal. And so, but I wasn't really that interested. Well, a couple of weeks later, now I'm getting fattened up. It's probably a month and a half later. I'm starting to feel healthy again and decide, I can't just be laying around because 6 days, shout out labor and do all that work. And so I figured, well, it's time to get back into the workforce and do something with myself besides living on my grandparents and stuff. And believe it or not, right about then, see, in Walla Walla, you guys, first you got to understand is the newspaper and job ads say Adventists don't apply here. No, they don't put it in English like that. They say must work weekends and evenings. That means Adventists don't apply here because we're going to make you work Friday night and Saturday, so don't even show up. I'd do it anyways. I didn't care. I just mark I can't work Friday nights or weekend and Saturday. Anyways, but when I got this phone call from my dad's friend up in Montana, my dad had been really good friends. He wanted me to come up there and do some remodel work on his house. And so I said, sure. And he said, hey, I'll pay you $25 an hour and my wife will cook for you. His wife's just a great cook. And so I went up and they live on this flathead lake, just gorgeous. He said, I'll take you fishing. So I went up there. Well, as I'm working on the house, there happened to be about 20, 30 miles away a church that my father had built and pastored. And so I decided I'd go to church there. So I went to church, and during, right before the sermon, there was a doctor up front giving like a little report because there was a missionary trip that he was getting to go on. And there was 20 kids at Portland Adventist Academy who had raised $20,000, and they had bought their airfare and paid for the materials to build a church in Fiji. And this part of Fiji, if you go there and you have children under the age of, I don't know, 12 or something, 13, you have to bring your own doctor with you because there's no medical facilities. Well, it's his son-in-law that is heading up this project, and he's the doctor because his son and daughter, his son-in-law and daughter had children under the age that they had to bring a doctor. And he was telling the church, and I'm that doctor. Now, what you guys don't know is my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, and myself have all been general contractors. Building is in our blood. And so I'm sitting there hearing this, going to Fiji on a mission trip to build a church. Hey, Doc, you got room for one more? Can you build? He says. I said, well, you're standing in a church my father built. He's an old man. I can run circles around him. Yes, I can build. He says, well, let me give him a call. I was a little cocky back then. He says, let me give him I had my own construction company. I was a general contractor for 8 years in Seattle. So I was trying to tell him, yes, I can build. And so, anyhow, and plus I built with my grandfather and my father from as a little kid. I was mixing blood and carrying blocks at 10, 12 years old. 13, 14 years old, when we would go to my father's house for summer break and stuff like that. So anyways, I told him, yes, I can build. So he says, okay, I'll give Scott a call and I'll let you know next week in the church. So next week I came to church, and of course I was very, very excited. I said, so Doc, when did you find out? He goes, about what? Come on, man. About the mission trip to Fiji. Yeah, you got room for one more? He goes, oh, yeah, that's right. I called Scott. And he says, yeah, it's not good news. He said, as soon as Scott heard my voice, he goes, oh, Dad, I think the Fiji trip is canceled. And Doc goes, well, why? And he says, well, Dad, you're just not going to believe it. He said, these kids raised all this money, and everybody's ready to go. The general contractor we had lined up had a family emergency come up. And you can't make it. And we can't find anybody that knows how to build. All these kids, they got the money, they got the materials, they got everything, but they don't know how to build. And so, Doc goes, have you been praying about it? Yeah, Dad, we've been praying about it. Not only us, we got the church praying about it, we got neighboring churches praying about it. Yes, Dad, we're praying about it. But nobody can come in such short notice, or they don't have a passport or whatever. They're just busy and nobody can come. Doc goes, well, are you sure you've been praying about it? Scott's got a pretty short fuse. And he goes, yes, Dad, we've been praying about it. Why do you keep asking if we're praying about it? Yes, we're praying about it. He goes, I just want to make sure you've been praying about it, because the reason why I'm calling you today is there's a retired general contractor that wants to know if you've got room for one more on the Fiji trip. And I'll tell you what, when he said that, every hair on my body stirred up again. Because here I am, scum of the earth, okay? I used to describe myself, when you get that mucky mire at the bottom of a pond that's just silty and gross, and you step, it's all goo, and you start moving that muck aside, and you dig down deep through all that feces and stuff, then you'll reach where I'm at. That's the opinion I have myself. And that was the answer to those prayers. Me, I was the answer, and I couldn't handle that. That blew me away. It truly blew me away. I was the answer to their prayers. So I went on the teacher trip. And it was primitive. It was fun. We had a blast. We built this church. We had the subfloor and the walls up and everything. And about the time we had all the outside walls up, I had to design trusses and everything. There's no trusses over there, so I built them on the floor. And built all these trusses one at a time from the jig that I had made on the floor. And that's about when the evangelistic team came, because there was going to be a 6-week evangelistic series that was going on outside of the church while we were building the church, and they were there. And I'm sitting there, I remember I'm on the outside wall, laying out for trusses, making my marks on the wall, and the evangelism crew came. And anyhow, once the pastor found out my story up to that point, her name, Clarissa Laurie, Pastor Laurie, she said, oh no, you're not here just to build a church, you're here to get involved with these meetings. So she had me up front and tell my personal testimony up to that point, and got me involved out into the villages in the evening, giving Bible studies, and we would sit on the dirt floors, and they had mats and in these little huts that one wall might be thatched, one wall might be wood, one wall might be tin, windows that just kind of push open, no glass or anything. You're just out in these real primitive type villages, but it was a blast. They loved to study the Bible, and they wanted to study more and more. And you could be there studying the Bible with these guys all night long for the next morning. But anyhow, at the end, this was the most amazing thing. There's a river going into the bay, and I'm on the bridge over the river. And somehow I was all by myself. I don't know why I was up there by myself, but I was just standing there looking at everything. The church is here, and if you guys haven't ever been to Fiji, it's like the Garden of Eden. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. You can just take your camera and go like this in circles, and you'll get beautiful pictures every time. And it's just gorgeous there. And so this scene was to die for. It's all these coconut palms, the ocean, the river, the church that we had just built sitting here. And down below me in the water is the pastor and a string of Fijians coming into the water to be baptized. And 13 of those that were baptized were people that I had studied with in their huts. And I'll tell you what, you guys, I was so overwhelmed by the Holy Spirit at that point. He just came into me, and I mean, it was like there, standing on a bridge in Fiji, I dedicate my life to the Lord. And I said, it took my knees out. It was like doing a drug that I had never done before. It was a high that I had never experienced before, and I was instantly addicted. I wanted that high again and again and again. And I was standing there on this bridge in Fiji, holding myself up from falling down, so overwhelmed with the Holy Spirit, I pledged to the Lord right then and there. I said, Lord, I don't know how, and I don't know but I want to do this for the rest of my life or until Jesus comes. I'm going to be in your work. And so that was a really pivotal time. So, again, I didn't know how, but I made it back to Walla Walla, back to Grandma's house, back to unconditional love, of course. And I knew I needed to get back into work, and so I was there and applying for different jobs and everything, and it was pretty pathetic with they would say, okay, one lady, okay, Gary, I'm gonna do a background check, and as soon as I do, I'll call you, and you can come start on Monday. Of course, you never hear back from them. I call back on Monday. She says, no, I'm sorry, dear, my printer ran out of ink on your report, and we decided to go in a different direction. That was what I always did. Well, in the church bulletin, there was 2 ads I saw. It said, how would you like to help us do some reconstruction work on the Walla Walla College Aquatic Center in Seattle, Washington? And I said, they'll take me, work for free, of course. I was a on contractor. And then there was another one that said, how would you like to go to Hong Kong and teach English for a year? And I kind of snickered. I said, I skipped more English classes than I went to. They won't want me. But I was feeling impressed and inspired, so I put a line underneath it. It was a local number. Sunday, I wake up and I had done some email and stuff, and so finally it was the afternoon, so I called the number and the thing, and in the bulletin for the aquatic center, and of course they said, yep, you're hired, and of course it was, missionary work, and so there was no pay, but it was also another 3 months down the road. So I decided, well, I can at least call and see what the qualifications are for the English teacher position, right? Because I know they'll say no, but for some reason I'm supposed to call. So I called, and I said, hi, my name's Jack Boyd, and I'm just calling wondering what the qualifications are for the teacher's position. He goes, what? Because I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, your name's John Ash? He goes, yes. Is this your phone number? Yes. Well, it says right here in the church bulletin that it's all you. Oh, and you can almost see the light going on. Oh, my dad's name is John Ash. He probably put that in there. He's John Ash the third. His son's the fourth. His kid's the fifth. And I hope it stops there. But anyways, so he says he's in Hong Kong. He's the executive secretary of the union there. He must have put that ad in there, put my number in, here's his contact information, here's his email address, here's his phone number. And he gave me all the numbers to put in front of it too, because that didn't always see phone call before. And I wasn't going to start either, because my grandparents are from the Depression, and they see this big old phone bill come in from my grandma would be grabbing her chest, so I said, I'll send an email. So I sit down over at the computer and I push the button, and Windows 95 starts to boot up. And all of a sudden I get a black screen with a blue square, and it says an explorer has committed an illegal act and will shut down. The tower shut off and everything. Weird. Starts booting up again, and then all of a sudden, black screen, blue square, explorer has committed an illegal act and will shut down. Man, this is really weird. So I started in DOS, and from my history with the map, I was really good at computers. And the funny thing is, I sat there and I looked at it and I said, I knew I've done a lot of illegal things on computers, but I didn't know they did them all by themselves. Anyhow, I figured out what the problem was. I needed to take a floppy disk. Your parents can explain that to you later, kids. Took a floppy disk, and I had to take it to my friend's computer, put it in his computer, and then in DOS download his Explorer program onto that, and then take it and put it in my grandma's computer, delete her Explorer program, and then put the new one in, and it really worked fine. But it was 10 o'clock at night, and I decided that's what I needed to do. So I lay down on the couch to watch the evening news, and I'm sitting there watching the news, and this little voice says, call Hong Kong. And I said, back to the little voice in my head. Now, I'm not hearing voices like out of the walls like last time. It's in my head. And I said, no, I'm not going to call. Grandma will have a heart attack. So, 5 minutes later, the little voice isn't little anymore, but it's not loud, and it's saying, call Hong Kong. I said, no, I got it all under control. Tomorrow I'll send an email. I got this. Okay? Then 5 minutes later, the voice says, call Hong Kong, call right now. I jumped up off the couch, I looked up, I said, all right, Lord, I'll call, but you better take care of that when the phone bill gets here. And I walked over to the phone, I picked it up. There was the paper with all those digits on it. I punched them all, and then all of a sudden, why? I can't speak Chinese. I'm about ready to hang up. John asked, "Oh, 1 minute, please." And she speaks perfect English. "Why can't you answer the phone that way? About giving me a heart attack." So now I'm talking. I'm going to be talking fast because I got to make this phone call short. Next thing I hear, John asked, "Hi, my name is Jack Ford. I'm calling from Walla Washington. I want the qualification offer an English speaking position. Are you breathing?" "Yes." "Good. How soon can you be here?" Now, what you guys don't know about Walla Walla, and he does because his son lives there, or maybe you don't know about Walla Walla, is Walla Walla is the end of the line for penitentiaries in Washington State. It's the only penitentiary in Washington State where they execute people. So if I would have gone to that one prison and messed up there, they would have sent me to a different one called Shelton. And if you mess up there and you don't conform, they send you to Walla Walla. It is Midwest. It's the end of the line. Okay? I could be an axe murderer, found a bulletin laying in the garbage somewhere, calling the number. I said, "Don't you want to know anything about me first?" And he said, later he told me, he said, "I heard the desperation in your voice. You thought I was a nut." And I said, "You're exactly right," because I was thinking, this guy's an idiot. I don't want to work for him. If he's going to hire me and doesn't know a thing about me, this isn't, no, I'm not going overseas for that. I said, "Don't you want to know anything about me first?" He goes, "Let me explain." He heard that desperation in my voice. He says, "Let me explain." He says, "I'm the executive secretary of the Chinese Union Mission." He said, "That makes me second in command, like the vice president, over China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan." He said, "I'm a very, very busy man. My wife is my right hand. She is a very, very busy lady. She is in my office because the teacher you're replacing, had a family emergency come up." That's code for we worked him to death and he went home. Had a family emergency come up, and they've asked my wife to fill the position. She is such a dear, sweet lady, she can't say no, but she's so busy in her own work, she can't say yes. She is in my office. We are on our knees, pouring our heart to God. She's bawling her eyes out. I said amen. The phone is ringing. It's you calling from the United States about this very position. I know all I need to know. How soon can you be here? 10 days later, I stepped off the plane in Hong Kong. And I tell you what, I had a suitcase in each hand. I walked into the beautifully air-conditioned airport, and the doors part, and the next doors part, and I hit that humidity, and it was like walking into a sauna room that was jacked way up on high. And I just, it was like somebody hit me. I turned right back around, I walked right back into that airport, and I said, "I'm going home. It's way too hot and muggy here." That was insane. That was 3 o'clock in the morning when I got to my room where I was going to be living. And there was a note on my door that said, "Come up for breakfast, John Ash." Or "Welcome to Hong Kong. Come up for breakfast, 7 a.m., John Ash." It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I wadded that thing up. I put it in the garbage. I laid down on my bed and I went to sleep because I had no intention of being anywhere at 7 o'clock in the morning after a 24-hour flight and all that. So I laid down, I went to sleep, and believe it or not, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I went bing, right awake, and I said, "Well, I might as well go upstairs." So I went upstairs, knocked on the door, and the door mysteriously opened all by itself. And I looked in, and there's Pastor and Mrs. Ash sitting at their breakfast table. And Pastor Ash goes, "Come on in." So I walked on in, and then I turned around, and the door came mysteriously back closed, and that's when I saw April Lynn. She worked for Pastor Ash and Mrs. Ash. Anyhow, and so I got to meet another person there. And Pastor Ash at breakfast says, "Oh, by the way, you're not here just to teach English, you're going to be a pastor." And I said, "No, I'm not." And he said, "Oh, yes, you are. And for every reason I had for why I wasn't, he had a reason for why I was. And I don't know how to make sermons. Oh, that's the easy part. Just take and get somebody else's and make it your own. Well, I don't know. He says, that's okay, I'll teach it. And he had an answer for every reason why I couldn't do this. Anyways, so he says, no, you're going to be a pastor too. Anyways, he explained that if he had a church, but he was the executive secretary, so he was never in Hong Kong. So he said, you're going to pastor my church. The weekends that I'm there, I'll do it, but the weekends I'm away, you'll do it. Like I said, he was never there. I think he was there maybe 2 Sabbaths a year. But anyhow, so while we were there, he taught me how to be a pastor in Hong Kong. And you know what else, you guys? I forgot to say. I got to come back to this. That phone call never showed up on my grandmother's phone bill. Never showed up on my grandmother's phone bill. No calls overseas ever showed up on that phone bill. So God took care of Grandma after all. Amen? Well, while we were in Taiwan, that morning at the breakfast table, Pastor said to April Lynn, he said, I'm too busy to show Jack all the different, I was teaching at 5 different schools. And thankfully, it's just conversational English. And as you can see, I have no problems conversing. I can talk. Anyways, and so I had classes to teach English, not English classes like we have in school. But anyways, just conversational English. And so she had to take me he put her in charge of showing me all around Hong Kong. And of course, 5 years later, when he married us, he said, I will put April Lynn in charge of showing Jack around Hong Kong, and now she will be showing him around for the rest of his life. And so it's kind of cool that within the first probably 5 hours of landing in Hong Kong, I met my future wife. So that was pretty cool. Anyhow, and that's April Lynn. Some of you guys know her, but there's our children sitting there too. Anyways, so how much really? Because I got 5 minutes. Okay, then I won't tell that story. So anyhow, I'll just, man, there's so many miracles that God worked to get us all around to these different places that I've been. So we were in Hong Kong. I was asked to go by the union. The union asked if I would go to Taiwan and hold a 6-week English program. And I said, sure. Then, the day before, that was going to be a couple weeks ahead. The day before I left, the conference put a letter in my mailbox saying, you don't have permission to go to Taiwan. You are terminated. Please evacuate your apartment within 2 weeks. I knew I was going to be gone for a 4-week program or 2. Anyways, I was going to be gone, and by the time it was when I got back, I would have to have been out of the apartment by the couple of days before I was scheduled to return. So now I'm in Taiwan. I'll tell you these stories really short. So now I'm in Taiwan doing this English program. Well, I need to find a job because now Ben just got terminated for leaving the island without permission. But yet as a union, their bosses had asked me to go, and I really did have permission because I was told that this guy right here is my boss. Unless there's a conflict, then I go to the conference to get it resolved. I asked him if I could go. He said, yes, I have permission. I didn't ask the conference to go, so I didn't have permission. Anyways, it's a long story short. So now I'm there. I had met this guy in Hong Kong. Pastor asked, he draws all the big wigs, right? So he didn't have time to show this guy around Hong Kong, so he asked April Lynn and I if we would. I said, sure. So we showed this guy all around. His name is Bruce Price. He's from Australia. And so I sent him, I remember when we were running around with him, he said, man, we really need to get you to Australia. You need to be a missionary in Australia. So I remembered that. So I fired off an email to the conference in Australia, and I said, hey, I told him who I was, what I was doing, and and that I was wanting that, and if you knew Pastor Bruce Price, You can ask him about me because he knows more about me than anything I can send you in an email. Okay? And I sent that email off with prayers that we could get a job. So the email comes back, it says in big bold letters, Jack, God wants you in Australia. He begins to tell me the story in this email, how he was reading my email, and he got to the point that, do you know Pastor Bruce Price? And then he says, oh, by the way, yes, I know that Bruce Price very well. He is the pastor for the conference that mentors new pastors. He says, I know Bruce Price very well. And he says, and as I was reading about Bruce Price, now this is like a year after Bruce had been to Hong Kong. Knocked on my door, I said, come in, and the guy came in, and it was Pastor Bruce Price. And he said the first things out of his mouth was, I've been meaning to come in here because there's a missionary in Hong Kong that I want to get over here. His name is Jack Boyd. And my email was on his screen at that very moment, and he was reading, do you know Pastor Bruce Price? Knock, 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 and in walks Pastor Bruce Price. To me, that's a pretty impressive miracle. So, we ended up in Australia. Then, after Australia, I haven't got to the pastor part. Anyway, so, yeah, there is a part. I could do a part two. Anyhow, yeah, let's, I'll make it short. So we came home from Australia. I went to AFCO. And at AFCO, you know, Amazing Facts College and Evangelism. Okay? So when we came home, I went there. And of course, my son was born in Australia. And we came home, and April and Amber was born here. And I went off to AFCO. And my dad said, and we're done supporting your ministry, so you better get a real job. On my way to AFCO. Long story short, at the end of AFCO, I had called them before I registered and asked if they had a pastoral track, and they placed pastors. I said pastors specifically. So at the end of AFCO, we've been there the whole 6 months. We're getting ready, a small group of us, we're getting ready to go to Cartagena and do a 6-week series. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. But anyways, and so they get to the class, and the class had all these papers already on our desks when we got there, and there was 2 pages of Bible worker tracts. And then they went through those, and then at the end he said, okay, everybody get your books out, we're going to start on blah, blah, blah. And I raised my hand and says, where's the one for pastors? They had like 220 different Bible worker positions. And they looked, some of them looked really good. One of them was right there in Dodge Center, Minnesota. Anyway, and I actually called on that one. But nobody was there. Anyways, and so I had this issue. Where was I? Okay. Pastoral tract. Thank you, sir. He said, I said, where's the page for the pastor's tract? And he said, there isn't one. Open your books to, wait a minute. When I called up here, I asked specifically if you guys place pastors. They said yes. Now, the old man started to rise up. And you said yes. Have you ever placed a pastor? Yes. How many times? 1. And at that time, I wasn't the only one in the pastoral tract. You could hear all their balloons pop. And 5 of those pastors were in my van on the way back to Weimar that afternoon, and I'm telling you, there was nothing pastoral about our conversation. We were upset. We expected to get real jobs after that, and I'm sitting there like, now we're at the end, and there's nothing. And so, like I said, we were pretty bummed out. We were all upset. And we went to dinner and everything. We had dinner at our house, and we had a house at Weimar. And we were having dinner, and about, again, 10 o'clock at night, something did about 10 o'clock at night. About 10 o'clock at night, suddenly I realized something. And I went into my room, I laid on my bed, and I said, God, forgive me, I failed you. I said, I'm not in charge of my ministry. AFCO isn't in charge of my ministry. My parents aren't in charge of my ministry. You are. So when you open a door, I'll step through it. And I'm not going to worry about it anymore. What AFCO can't place me. I know that when you open a door, I'll step through it. And so the next morning I shared that epiphany with the other 5 pastors in the van, and we all agreed that, yep, that's right. So then we went to class, had our normal day, we were back up right with the Lord and everything, and had the right spirit about us. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was driving home with all the pastors in my car, and my wife was on the phone and says, hey, I just got a call from Pastor Stafford. And I said, really, what's up? And she says, well, he got a call from this guy in Taiwan, and his name was, I can't remember, but I didn't know the name anyway. And I said, she said that Pastor Stafford had got a call from Taiwan. They wanted him to be the pastor of the Taipei church. And he wasn't interested, but he said that he knew the perfect person for the job, and he wants you to call this guy, Eric Mundell. Thank you, Lord. Eric Mundell. And I said, well, I don't know who Eric Mundell is, but what you guys don't know, because I didn't have time to tell that part of the story, was Pastor Ash wanted to retire, and they said, okay, you can retire as long as you retire as the conference president in Taiwan. So I hung up with my wife, and I just happened to have Pastor Ash's phone number already in my cell phone, and I called Pastor Ash, and I heard the Taiwan conference, and I hear, why? And I said, Pastor Ash, please. Next thing I hear is John Ash. And I said, hey, Pastor, this is Jack. Oh, hey, Jack. We catch up for a minute. And I relayed the story to him. I said that Pastor Stafford, and he knows Pastor Stafford personally. I said, Pastor Stafford got the call for Taipei Church. He said, I'm perfect for the job. He said, to call Eric Mondal. I don't know him. You're my father overseas. You know me better than anybody. He goes, man, I don't know why I didn't think of you. Okay, here's what you're going to be doing. And that's how I was the pastor of the Taipei Church. But when I got there, they flew me down to meet the church and do all that fun stuff. But while I was on the way there, I get a call from Pastor Ash. He says, oh, they're already fighting over you. They want you to go to Kaohsiung too. And so, long story short, I went to the Taipei Church. It's a beautiful church. Up to the hospital. And the schools, all the teachers and doctors and nurses, and it's just a beautiful church with a beautiful congregation. Then I went to Kaohsiung. The Kaohsiung English Church was a garage on the side of a beautiful Chinese Baptist church. And it had, it was a mess. It had a rolling garage door down, and anyway, but it had 9 people there that were looking for the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I went to both churches, and then afterwards I prayed about it really hard, but I didn't even have to. I just called Pastor Ash and I said, hey man, Kaohsiung is the Lord for me. I want to raise up this church. And he says, all right, you're the pastor of the Kaohsiung English Church. And that's how I went from pastor to pastor. Now I want to close because I asked you that question about letting God paint His picture on your heart. And see, that was 19 years ago, 2000. The year 2000, God picked up His brush and started painting on the canvas of my heart. He isn't finished. I may not like the way He paints sometimes. Okay? I compare it to this rock that I have in my hand. This is a belt buckle. This is called amethystine. I don't know if you guys can see it, but anyways, it's called amethystine. And we're like these rocks. You see, the jeweler doesn't take just any rock and start carving on it. You don't take a piece of granite off the roadway and take it into your place and start with the pattern and grind on it to make something. You know why? Because when you get done, it'll be just as ugly as it was before you started. You got to start with something that when you polish it will shine. Right? And that's us. God doesn't start with just anybody. He only starts with what will be polished when he's finished. We'll hold that polish. And see, if you were this rock, and you take this rock, you cut it with a saw, then you take a pattern thing and you put on there, you took the circle, then you take another saw and you cut out that square, and then you start with the diamond wheel. And the diamond wheel, and you grind it to its shape, the outside oval. You got that line, you hit that line, and then you go to the next wheel, and you got to have water on these wheels because it will be hot. And this rock will literally explode in your hands. And when your thumbs nick that diamond wheel, it takes your skin right and your thumb nail right off instantly. But on the rock, it's grinding and it's leaving scratches. Then you turn the water off and you go to the next wheel, and it's a sandpaper wheel. And that one has water on it too. And you keep going to remove. Now you've got it, once you're off the diamond wheels, you have it to its shape. Now you're removing the scratches. So you work your way down the sandpaper, and you polish and you polish and you polish until you get to the buffing wheel, and then you finish. But see, the Holy Spirit is like that, boy. As God is grinding on us, we might not like it sometimes. It's painful. If this rock could speak when I was grinding on it, it would be screaming, hey, that hurts. But if God doesn't prepare our characters for heaven, heaven would be hell when we get there. Right? It's like when we used to go to Dad's house on the summer breaks. We had supervision. I would hate this. But once we realized that was what it was, we loved it. You know what I mean? And we're like these rocks. God is grinding on us. But the neat thing is, when God is done, we're not just a belt buckle. We're a crown, a jewel. That jewel is in his crown. And so that's why I asked that question. If you would let God paint his picture on your heart. Because we might not like the way he has to do things sometimes. It might not be all fun and games. It might be a little painful at times as he takes our characters from characters of this world that will be characters that will assimilate up into heaven. And so my prayer is that you can see through the stories that I told today that God doesn't look at what you are. He looks at what you can be. Now, I'm a long ways from being polished. I'm still in the grinding stage myself. I haven't got a polish on me yet. But God is still working on me. And I know there's people maybe here that don't think God can use them. But I'll tell you what, if he can use somebody like me, then he can use you too. He can make the rocks cry out, but he would rather use you. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. And Father, we thank you for this beautiful sign of faith. And Father, if I had it all to do over again, I would. But since I can't change any of my past, Father, I just pray that you can use that to touch hearts and to touch lives. And Father, I thank you for being a God that cares enough for us, that you gave us your Son to assure our salvation. You put him on the cross to take our sins, that we could have but an opportunity to be saved if we only trust in you. So Father, I ask tonight, or this afternoon, that you take out your brush and paint the blood of Jesus Christ upon our canvas. Paint your picture. However it needs to be painted, paint it your way, Father, so that when our canvases are done, they can be framed and hung in your throne room as your precious jewels. Take us and give us your peace for each and every one of us. This is my prayer, and I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Our closing song today is Psalm 111.